Kyle Tierman here. I'm in Cape Town.
I was the only journalist in northern Nigeria.
Not an adventure until you get lost in Tijuana.
If you get caught inside by a giant wave, you feel really alone.
I love the adventure of waking up and not knowing what will happen and that being my job.
All right, and we are on. David Littlejohn. So nice to see you, man.
Good to see you, dude.
So
It's an exciting time for both of us right now.
it really is. It really is. Yeah, this episode's coming out on Pub Day for me, and it's nice to do something else besides think of the book on Pub Day, which is good. And you have a big thing coming up as well. But I figured that we would start somewhere, maybe a bit more unexpected. I don't know if I've told you this, but my dad is a magician, and he grew up, when he was 11 years old. His mother came home with a big old wooden box of magic tricks from like the 1930s, just these old handcrafted tricks, and he taught himself how to do each one of these tricks. He lived in Santa Monica at the time. He then went into a magic shop, and it really opened up his personality, the way he talks about it. We did a whole interview just on magic and how this single hobby turned him from an introvert into going around LA playing magic shows to, for extra cash through high school. And then he famously, it's a story in the book, won his student body vice president speech in front of his entire Santa Monica high school by giving a talk and then having a white dove fly out of his sleeve. And by saying, we need some magic to turn this thing around. So, and since then, magic has always been very close to his life. I have nieces and nephews now that are his grandkids, so he'll always still show up with a tuxedo and top hat at birthday parties. And
Wow.
yeah, it's something that's just really kept a glint in his eye. And he says for him, magic is about moments of revelation, and that's what keeps him going. He says life is about moments of revelation. So my first question to you is, what role has magic played in your life?
Well, dude, I didn't know that. And I am just imagining you as a kid growing up, you know, with a magician. So this was a hobby, or he did this professionally? Like
He,
what level
he
of
did
magician
well. He did it. He was getting paid through high school and through college, like doing big shows,
Yeah. Wow.
birthday parties, magic shows. Like
Yeah.
he was very good. I think that there's definitely levels to the game. He was no Chris Angel, but
Yeah.
he knows his stuff. And it's still, my dad just discovered social media, and his entire social media feed is magic tricks and knot tying. We talk about doom scrolling. I saw his feed once. I'm like, dude, this is like the best social media feed I've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, I love that, people are starting to talk more about magic, and it's sort of having a little bit of a rebirth, um, because it's one of the most, to me, fascinating uh, things that you can learn, and it's also, I want to just say, like, there's a real torture to the magician, the modern magician, because what draws, especially a child like myself. So I grew up knowing. If I like to tell people, like, yeah, I'm so old that when I was a kid, we used to swap jokes and magic tricks. Like, that was entertainment, right? And of course, I'm not that old. I'm like, 43. But, like, it's like we were each other's entertainment. There wasn't the internet. So, like, memes were, what's the latest joke you've heard? Have you heard anything new? What do you got for me? And I really love that, like, your friends were a huge source of entertainment. And I think that's one of the real challenges we have in society is that like now we have these people that feel like friends who are really interesting, say all this smart stuff, but you're not actually talking to them, you know? And so then your friends sort of seem lame. Like they don't have anything to say that's interesting. Um, but when I was a kid, you know, you were able to, and especially guys, you know, young boys, like that making people laugh, like that was a big part of it. And so jokes and magic are very similar in that they're these sort of surprises. I would say the joke is a little bit of the surprise for the mind, and magic is sort of surprise for physical reality. It's an unexpected thing that takes you back and makes you have a physical, you know, response. So comics are looking for, and you and I both are students of comedy. Comics are looking for the physical laugh as proof that you were funny, that you created this sort of surprise in the brain. You know, magic has this sort of it has many different reactions, which is really interesting about it. It's surprise, shock, but magicians love that reaction, that like, oh my gosh, that, you know, they were dumbfounded, they were frozen, they were mouth gaping open. Like, and so I'll just say though, to get back to like my perspective on it, is that, you know, magic for me is it's interesting how your dad used the words like revelation. Yeah, to me, I'd say it's the chasing of wonder, and it's the belief that maybe the world is magical. Maybe I don't know how it works. And the magician shows you something that's impossible, and it in that moment sort of opens the mind. You're forced to go, I know how the world works, and you're showing me a world that works differently, and that's either amazing or really frustrating and unsettling. And I find it interesting. Someone should do a study on this if they haven't. It's like, I think you can tell a lot by people's reactions to close-up magic. So I studied close-up magic. Sounds like your dad did close-up and stage. The beautiful thing about close-up magic is that you cannot say, well, there was a mirror or there was some smoke or they did something, right? If I do it in my hands to you in front of your face, you're just like, bro, I'm looking, I I don't understand, right? And many people haven't seen close-up magic because it's so personal and intimate. It's an audience of 1 or 10 at the most. So all that to say is the some people get mad. They're especially smart people, like they're just like they're angry because there's an expectation and they can't explain it. And then all they can do is like, you must be tricking me, or you're a weird loser who learned some weird stuff, or like, you know, and so magicians have this weird identity crisis of, I want to, I believe in wonder and possibilities, and I want to show you a magical world. And yet they're treated often as, you are fooling me, you're lying, this isn't real, you're a weird asshole, you know, like, and it's like, and it sucks for the magician because there's like, I just thought that was really cool to show you. So
Right.
to me, it's a chasing of wonder, and then it's a chasing of maybe the world works differently. And I think the magician opens up the brain to just, maybe there's more to what you know and the way the world works than you thought. And in that way, I would say magic is a little bit like a psychedelic. And I'll tell you the story in a little bit of going to recently to the European Championship of Magic and sitting with the world's best sleight of hand magician at the table in Italy, in this little town. And this dude, for 3 hours, just obliterated my mind. And it was so good, but I left, I've done psychedelics. I left being like, that was
Yeah.
one of the most powerful psychedelics I've ever experienced. My mind is fried. And I loved it so much. Even though I know he's doing all sorts of like weird stuff, but I don't know what it is. And that to me is what's beautiful about it.
Wow. That's so fun. That's so fun. Um, you mentioned you mentioned, being young and having a big thing among guys being like telling jokes, which I mean, growing up for me, yeah, it was like, okay, how do you get funny? It's like you get funny to make friends, later to get laid, maybe to like not get beat up at parties, like
Right.
I learned how to be funny because I
Totally.
was in Santa Cruz, it's very much bifurcated between like east side and west side, and my parents split up when I was kids, so my mom lived on the west side, my dad lived on the east side, and we would I would go to parties on both sides of town, and there's all these little punk kids, 15, 16, like, oh, are you west side or you east side? And I had friends on both sides of town. I was like, dude, it's all good. And I found that if I could um, be self-deprecating, um, make a little joke right off the bat, like I was just learning social norms, but I figured out this little like hack to
Mhm.
kind of becoming friends with everyone. Whereas the other kids that were very prideful and very much like I'm the best, I'm gonna fucking like you very fragile, in their egos and their identities. They were the kids who are always getting either made like heckled or beat up.
Mhm.
Like and I learned that really early on that if you can kind of make fun of yourself, it takes the bullets out of the gun. But I mean, I learned it as a social strategy to be able to like navigate high school.
Mhm.
Um where did you learn that? I mean, you said growing up, just bring me a little bit more into like young, junior high, high school. Where did you grow up and what was that like for you? And maybe how did that inform who you are today as a creative?
Mm. Yeah, so I grew up in a small town in Virginia, sort of central Virginia, and I was there till I was 16, and then I moved to Chattanooga in high school, where I live now, and where I've started Humanod, and where I stay, and um, you know, and I also one of the most formative parts of my upbringing was I went to summer camp every summer for a month, an all boys camp from the time I was like 7 till a counselor and like, almost like 19, and a month every year away from your family, parents, out in just nature with a bunch of other kids and then like some kind of like college, you know, like your counselors, now you realize like at the time they seemed like these old wise people. They're like
Yeah.
idiots that are that are in charge
You
of
were
you,
at
you know,
17. Yeah, I just
and you're riding horses and water skiing and shooting archery and riflery and also deep competition and every night like two teams or tribes against each other and I that experience I think was so formative because it it framed like life as this adventure as a place where you could learn new things, all sorts of different things, and create mastery of those things and become better at those things. And then yes, and then this idea of competition. And I think anyone who's you know, but I'd say sort of like brotherly friend competition as opposed to like organized sports. Like there's a little abstraction. Any competition's great. You're gonna learn. You're gonna have teamwork. You're gonna you know. But I would say that one of the things I'm actually trying to take into my life now that I think I got early on is that, and it sounds so simple, but it's like you're able to work so much harder if you're having fun. So it's like you go out on the soccer field. I played soccer growing up too. I was a musician. I think one of the things that was challenging as I got older is that I was so good and interested in so many things. Which as you're trying to go into a college, you're like, what do I do? I can do all this stuff. I actually like all this stuff. And, but all I'll say is, fun, when you're on the soccer field, you're running at your absolute hardest you possibly can, full sprint, you know, and but you're not trying. You're not like grinding. You're not like, and then afterwards you need incredible rest and recovery. You're exhausted, right?
Mm.
And I just think that we have, as a society, we've lost the idea that if you're doing something fun, that's actually how you're going to hit peak performance. That's when you're going to be at your absolute best. We have this weird backwards idea of like, oh, um, if I'm working really hard, that's how I grind. I get up late. I stay up late and get up early. Da, 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 right? It's like, and I would say that I am someone who's just, I don't know why I've been lucky in that I just selfishly have only done shit that was fun. And if it wasn't fun, I didn't do it. And so I say, like, I never had a job. I just did stuff that sounded interesting to me. And it happened to be that I worked at a place and they gave me money and then I happened to start a company. But I've never been a business person. It's like I'm literally just doing what sounds interesting to me. And then that creates value and creates, all sorts of interesting stuff and an interesting life. And I think you have been on that journey too.
Oh, totally. And I've had I was, Mudwater was really my first
Mm.
jumping off point into the advertising world. And, I got that job because Shane, the founder, and I, we would always write really funny texts to each other. Like he's hilarious, just like a sniper, right? And a lot of the early copy at that brand was just us texting each other like funny shit, which I know that you've said a great hack for copywriting and billboard writing is just like think of the thing you would text your friend and that's going to be the billboard headline. But yeah, I always worked hard, but it was very much following my energy,
Yeah.
following this thing that was like, oh, that lights me up. I'm thinking about this all night. It doesn't feel like work. And I remember, moving to LA and being very kind of thrown by the performative aspect of work because I had never, I was outside of the system. I was like, I was pro surfer, journalist, like you do the work, you put the work in, but like I had never like stared at a computer pretending to work as happens at, offices, right? Whereas
Yeah.
I think one thing that we really kind of like see eye to eye on is like work doesn't always look like work. But there are these socially sanctioned activities that kind of make us look like it's the performative busyness versus taking a step back and coming up with the big idea, whatever that looks like for you, whether it's, hey, work for me is I'm going to go play some volleyball right now because that's when I'm going to come up with the big idea, or I'm going to go do a cold plunge, or I'm going to chat with some friends. How did you when you started Humanaut try to ward against that culture of
Mm.
performative busyness?
Mm.
And how did you how is it, because you can do it yourself easily, right? Like what it takes for you to come up with good ideas, but then once you start getting other people in the room, um and I'll give you a compliment here, but like on the campaigns that I worked on with Humanaut, I was amazed at how quickly you got me into a space where I was actually working, like actually coming up with good ideas, not just like sitting in a room, like looking like I'm paying attention, but not really providing value. So it seemed like a very intentional thing for you when building that agency's culture is like, how can I actually get people to start generating ideas as quickly as possible? And as a result, creating an agency where there's just a huge excess of ideas at all times.
Mhm.
So what was
Well, I
that?
appreciate
Yeah. What was that
yeah, I
process?
appreciate you saying that. Well, and so I'll answer this question, but I want to back up to just imagining the idea of copywriter or advertising guy, especially 20 years ago. It was a pretty amazing job. I found that my job was to sit with a notepad and just come up with ideas every day. And I would say that ideas for me almost became like magic tricks, like in the sense that you're sitting there, this thing comes into your mind and you're like, holy crap, that's amazing. What is that? And you write it down, and it's such an amazing feeling, because you're just like, and then you're like, I'm gonna keep going until I get that next. That one's not so good. Oh my gosh, you're like telling yourself jokes. You're like in this, and so I was very lucky that I stumbled into this career where I'm like, I just get to be creative. I get to just, and it's like, unlike an artist, traditional artist, unlike a screenwriter, like this just, and I became fascinated because my job was to come up with ideas. I'm like, what the fuck are these things? How did they come? Where did they come from? And I would try to find even books, be like, does anybody know what the hell these things are? And you would find these sort of weird attempts at like creativity, and like, there's one old school ad book or, creative book that was like, yeah, you basically think about the problem a whole lot, and then you go on a walk and then do some stuff for a few days, and then the idea will come. And you're like, wow, that's the best formulation. And then I got to work underneath some of the most brilliant idea people and study them and go, what are they doing here? And I think that one of my benefits is that I have the ability to go into wonderment and openness, and then I have the ability to almost rigorously have a thinking mind that can organize and structure. And so I became a bit of a scientist of my own mind, to go, when an idea comes in, what is it? How did it get there? And I'm watching every day these things happen. And I eventually realized one simple thing was that, for one thing, ideas were collisions of two different things, and you stuck them together. And I used to define creativity as like a useful collision. So, and I did this talk in college, even like, it's like, look, you can put a saw blade on a bicycle seat, and that's interesting, but that's not really useful. So this isn't really like a great idea. Like, but you start to interest, and I almost started to see ideas a little bit like the universe, or how, like, certain things in biology like can't mate, like they can come together, but then it dies. And I watched my mind. I was like, I'm creating a lot of these things that, like, they are collisions, but for whatever reason, they don't go, oh my gosh, whoa, holy shit, right? They kind of fall apart, or they're just like, eh. So first of all, I'll just say, you have to think of Humanot as like a company created by a pure idea junkie, just like, and someone who built up the ability to see a great idea. I always tell people in my career, one of the best things I did for myself was I created a blog when I was like a nobody junior copywriter. It was called Advertising for Peanuts. And every day I scoured the internet for the best ads I could find that day, coming out from all around the world, print ads and videos, mostly print ads. And I would just write a paragraph as to why it was good. But I became essentially the creative director of the world's advertising. Every day I selected the best ad that every single mind in the industry was coming up with. And then I explained why it was good. And so not only am I doing that, I'm also in my own day, every day, but it's fun. It's like, it's this self-propelling, like I said, sort of a juice or magic trick that I'm doing for myself. So fast forward to Humanot, there's one other missing piece that helped create Humanot. So in the past, before Humanot, I worked for a bunch of brands and selling stuff that I didn't care that much about. So like Jell-O, Kraft macaroni and cheese, eventually like Domino's, like, Best Buy. It's like, yeah, cool that there are these big brands, but like, and what you find when you're selling that stuff is like, you're sort of rewarded for silliness, kind of cleverness, kind of stupidity, because the whole point, your idea is just supposed to get people to think about Jell-O in a way that they weren't before.
Right.
And so I got really good at that. But I also got burnt out. I started to be like, what? I don't know if I care about this anymore.
Right. So
One
were
story I
were
would
you
tell
working
is
were you working in-house at these brands, or were you working in an agency?
I was at ad agency. So I got my start. I went to Columbia College Chicago and studied advertising. I was lucky. I decided to go in advertising in high school.
Hmm.
I just was like, what are these ads? Like I didn't know anybody who was in advertising. I loved making film. I was in art. I was in newspaper, jazz band, drama. But then I'm like watching ads and infomercials and being like, who makes this stuff? Because a lot of it's shit, but some of it's good. And it's like creative. It's really like, and it's real. It's not just a joke. It's like a real company made this. So I became fascinated by it. And then I always say, like, knowing what you don't have to know what you want to be when you grow up. You just need to pick something and start doing it because you have such an advantage. I suddenly in high school knew the books to read, the blogs to read, the type of people to reach out to. I had such a head start because I just I basically had no clue what to do, wasn't good at anything, but I was good at everything but not great at anything. And so I had this head start where I went into advertising, started working at ad agencies, where I worked on all these brands. There was one day I was working on Domino's. I made a bunch of Domino's commercials and they were cool. I worked with they're funny. I worked with like the DP for Wes Anderson and working with like an alligator trainer and the world's best dog jumping champion dog. It's like, it's cool, right? It's like I'm having fun. I'm making, I'm in LA. I'm staying at the Viceroy Hotel, checking in with a 30-day reservation. It's like they trick creatives often into living this sort of fun lifestyle. At least it used to be. And but then I remember getting back to the agency and I worked at an agency called Crispin Porter McGusky that was also notorious for crazy hours. It was the Green Berets, the Navy SEALs of creatives. I mean, you couldn't have worked more hours. Literally, it was insanity. But for an idea junkie, it's like that's the drug. So let's go. But all I'll say is the account executive tells me, "Hey, David, we just got the results back from how that new commercial you did is performing. We're going to get on a call and hear about it." And my first reaction was like, I don't care. I mean, in my mind, I was just like, at that moment, I was like, uh-oh, what am I doing? Like, I'm making commercials, but they're supposed to do this thing, and I don't actually care if that thing happens, even though I'm really good at it. I'm like, the commercial was crushing, but I was like, and so there was this clear disconnect. And so the birth of Humana was when I went out on my own. I left that agency. I tried to join the startup community because that's where I saw the best ideas coming. There was a time when the best ideas came out of ad agencies, like legit, because it was so innovative and quick. Like the bullet time effect that they used in The Matrix was first done in a Gap commercial. Like commercials and advertising was the most innovative job you could have. And then this thing called the iPhone App Store came out. And suddenly garages with kids who can code are making things like Instagram or making all this stuff.
Sorry, what's the bullet time gap thing that
Do you know like bullet time in The Matrix where the camera spins around?
Yeah.
That
yeah.
like was first done in a Gap commercial. Like
Oh, okay.
the point is that there was a lot of money in these short 30-second spots. And so you had famous directors directing them. You had crazy amounts of innovation technology that hadn't been used yet in a film going into it. And it was just and you could do these quick experimental things at the time. And so it was actually like people today might go like, "Oh, you went into advertising." It's like at the time it was the most innovative job you could have. I got to sit in the room and talk to both MySpace and Facebook, asking them to make a sub page on their pages for this campaign we were doing to help, people could order or buy Kraft Easy Mac cups for college kids. And we were like, make a sub page. They were like, we don't do that. Well, we were asking Facebook to make an app before there were apps. We worked with Twitter to get all the Best Buy Blue shirts to be able to answer tech advice in tweet form. They had to like do that with us.
Wow.
So like it was a very innovative time. Now today you just have essentially programmatic advertising that's digital, and there is no real innovation in it anymore. And that's why most of the creative innovation today is I would say on the brand side, on the product and tech side, the advertisers are sitting now at the mercy of the tech handed to them. But
Right.
before, you could create completely new things that never existed.
Because the mediums are now more well established. Like there's less breaking of the medium. Is that what you're saying? So
Yes, it's like it's essentially you would make a microsite that did something that never been done, or you'd create a game like Goodby Silverstein and Partners would literally make one of the coolest interactive games called Get the Glass that was like at the height of game design.
Mm.
Well, now what are we going to do? We're going to take our milk ad and stick it in a billboard as you're driving it through a video game that's established.
yeah.
Like the idea now is, why would we create equity when the equity's sitting over here and we can place ourselves in it? But
Right.
back then you had to make something that was really interesting.
Right. So, this next part of the conversation that we're gonna jump into, I mean, I think that it can be hard to talk about as an advertiser. It can be hard to talk about really caring about, for lack of a better word, like wanting to make a better world, because it so quickly becomes a sanctimonious conversation. And as an adult trying to make a career in your life, like you are going to take clients and make decisions that aren't, purely what maybe Gandhi would do. But also, I think it's really easy as you get into a career to just throw, especially in advertising, just be like, well, I'm just going to kind of throw my ethics away completely, try and get people to buy the most shit possible, and it doesn't matter what that company's actually selling. Like it's really easy to divorce your skill and the thing of the talent of getting attention around a thing with, well, what is that thing doing for the world? Like, and I think that you um have very much like kept that ethic with you, and it seemed also intentional when building Humanop that like we want to have the good guys try and win a bit more. And even now with your new endeavors, like how is it that we can have people care about the things that should um that should be cared about, I suppose. A bit more. So I mean, you're in this point where you're like, well, I don't really give a fuck about this, about the result of this ad that I'm doing at this agency. Um, I'm could be wrong here, putting words in your mouth, but like, was it because like, well, I don't really care about the company, therefore, well, maybe I can start a thing where we are working with more organic brands. We're working with brands that are doing things that are not having such potentially a net negative on society. How have you navigated that? And I'm going to give you the mic here because I just find that it's a hard conversation to have because it so easily can get into like sanctimonious environmentalism. But I find that you're someone who's skilled at getting attention around things, but also you do want to make things better.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you asking this, and I wanna this is the meat, man. This is the important thing that if I have something to share with people, it is gonna be around this, 'cause it's what I've kind of dedicated the last, 12 years of my life to, and now I'm kinda going even further into it. And, I'll just say I was lucky. I got to have a front row seat behind the curtain of capitalism, and I got to watch how all the things that were famous and all the things that people were buying, how and why they were buying them. And it was because brands hired these super creative people and then put this creativity out in the world via the brand. And yet the thing that is being sold is literally poison or garbage or shit that you should not put in your body most of the time. I'm someone who says, like, if you walk in the grocery store, 90% of that shouldn't go in your body. And yet the world's biggest brands and sub-brands are all represented there, and people buy them. Why? Because there's been a lot of creative engineering going into making you have an emotional connection to something that you shouldn't have an emotional connection with. That it's just like, and the thing about brands is they are designed as bullshit. You know, I don't have beef with the Jolly Green Giant selling, you know, but it's like, no one wants to see the factory where frozen vegetables or frozen food or frozen pizza comes from. Like, so what do? You create a fantasy to represent this thing so that you're now buying this emotional character, this sort of facade. You like the facade, and so then you get the thing, and then you eat or drink or, you know, and so I think I was just a little bit, when I finally got deep in, I was a little dismayed at, oh shit, the worst things for the planet and people have the best creative minds and creativity behind it. And so I thought, okay, I think the only path is that we're gonna have to give the products that are actually good, great marketing, great branding, because at the time, and still today often, the best companies have the worst branding, the worst storytelling. Because think about it. This is why the work I did for Organic Valley with Save the Bros and some of our early and current work for them, and the work I did with Liquid Death, like, it's essentially, typically a good product says a lot of rational stuff. Hey, this product's super well made. It doesn't have any pesticides in it. Hey, it doesn't have this in it, and it gives money to this. And you're just like, I just got bored, and that was not exciting. Meanwhile, you got some polar bears and some, you know, crazy stuff happening that's fun over here with the really red Santa Claus, and I feel great. And you didn't even tell me what's in your product. You don't want me to know what's in your product. So the brands that are, the products that are not good for you have a huge advantage, because they're just going to use emotion, because they don't want to tell you anything about them. The good products want to tell you stuff. They have a cool founder story. They have a cool, you know, ingredient list. They have to explain what's inside it because it has all these great benefits. This is unfortunately horrible marketing. And so what I've decided I needed to do was, like, I've got to figure out how to take these more complex, harder to sell products, and I need to create an emotional storytelling that's on par and better than what Nike's doing, what all these other big brands are doing. And I just found that a better for you brand could actually say things and do things and get away with things that a not good for you brand could do. So because the not so great brands are total bullshit, there can't really be transparency. There can't really be honesty. And these other brands, I realized, like, wow, I can let you behind the curtain. I can actually, you know, be truthful, because if you ask more questions, they'll lead to better answers. I'm not scared of you finding out more. I want you to find out more. This is a story that gets better. I'm just telling you the beginning of it. The other brands, they don't want you to go deeper. As you go deeper, it gets worse and worse and worse. And so I just started to realize, like, wow, if I can figure out the magic and the hack of selling better for you brands, we could get people buying the things that are better for you, and then the world could become a better place. I wanted to see where this goes next, but what I'll tell you is as I did this for 10 years, and I made a lot of the better for you brands famous, and they got acquired by mega brands and bigger businesses, I became very disillusioned with this passion that drove me for 10 years at Humanot, because the mission behind Humanot was to get good things inside people's brains, to put the world's best marketing and advertising behind brands that deserve it. And I did that, and I succeeded. And then huge corporations bought these brands and either ruined them or, you know, neutered them or killed them. And that's basically what's happening, is entrepreneurs have been tricked into, I watched for 10 years the better for you entrepreneurs who had great ideas, solutions to really corrupt things, unhealthy practices. They came up with solutions, and then they got into the entrepreneurship game. Money came in and invested, and at that point, they lost the ability to make the right choices, and then they had to make more money for people who have money, and then they sold out, and then they were sad because the thing they made, they don't get to do anymore, and they have a bunch of money, but no value was created. And so I'm now through the cycle of the myth of entrepreneurship that you can create any value in the system that we have if you sell. But literally every entrepreneur is pressured to sell in 3 to 5 years. That's the whole goal of your company, is to exit. That wasn't how it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. And so I'm creating a new company that's going to push against this, where I'll do it in the same way I did Humana, which is to follow my instinct and my gut on what matters, what's important, and what's good for people, and what's fun for me. And then I'm not gonna sell, and I'm gonna use that company to create value in Chattanooga, jobs in Chattanooga, and support artists. And that company is called Mouthfire, and it's a spicy non-alcoholic cocktail that gives you this incredible buzz from the peppers without any alcohol.
I want to get into Malfire and I want to get into this new model, but there's something you said there that I had never really considered, but is worth noting, which is that when you have a good for you product, when you believe that your company is improving society, it's easy to forget that you still need to be persuasive. It's like people think that because they're on the right side of history, they no longer need to come up with a really solid argument because that is self-evident, but it's just not true. Like if you, and I think it's a good exercise to imagine your company, your product, even if you wholeheartedly believe in the mission, ask yourself the question, what if this was bad for the world? How would I sell it? Like, what if I didn't have these logical benefits that I could lean on? What if I only had to go for the emotional benefits to get people on? I never actually considered that, but I think it would be really valuable because the guys that are just selling sugar are certainly playing that emotional game.
So yes, so the way I would ask this question is like, not you don't, if you have a better for you company, it's not that you need to still be persuasive. It's that you need to make an emotional connection, because we make decisions emotionally and then we rationalize them later. And the mistake that better for you entrepreneurs make is that they want to tell the story of why they're better and how the system is not good. And so they've created this solution that will inspire about 10 or 20% of people. And you will get your early growth from those educated people who get what you're saying. But my job at Humana is to sell probiotics to Walmart shoppers. And that means that you now need to find an emotion, and you make it really simple. And I think one of the best examples of this, and I got a front row seat at the creation of Liquid Death and to help also create some of their campaigns. But you know, the original insight behind Liquid Death is that the most the most popular beverages for young people are Monster and Red Bull. And essentially, water is the best beverage for you, but it's the lamest. So we have a problem. You're never going to convince people to drink water. And by even doing so, it's sort of like telling people not to do drugs. It's like telling people to drink water makes water even lamer. So Liquid Death's genius is they said, let's make a water that's cooler than Monster and Red Bull. And sort of Mike, took the idea further and had the genius of kind of almost branding the water more like an IPA beer or something, right? Like beer marketing could get away with a lot more than traditional consumer packaged goods. But Liquid Death is just cool. And so the thing is, actually, you you just need to be cool and exciting and create an emotional connection. People will find out later if they want to why it's so great. But you're competing with the whole internet of entertainment, cool factor, and just excitement and intrigue. And that's what every better for you brand needs to do. And the bar is getting raised all the time. So, you know, it's like any entrepreneur who's creating a company, coming up with a name, Liquid Death set a new bar for like what is possible. And it's like, I tell my clients now, I'm just like, do not worry that you're being too, too out there or offensive or risky. It's like the risk is to not be noticed, to spend all this time and energy and money and just nobody cares because it just is like, and so most entrepreneurs make the huge mistake of trying to be like the successful brands that they see. Those brands have gotten there because they had a ton of money to earn their way inside your brain. You don't have the money to earn your way inside your brain, so you have to get there purely through excitement, emotional storytelling, and doing something badass.
Right. Like Coca-Cola doesn't need to do something badass because they can pay for salience across culture at this point.
Coca-Cola, yeah, Coca-Cola. So the new place where people compete is for mind space. It's a very limited resource. I tell brands now, no matter whether you're a big brand or starting out, the equity that you are creating today is your story and whether people know about you. The only things that have value today are things people know about and think are cool. Okay? It used to be, is the product quality and is there shelf space and it's readily accessible? Well, that's way easier to do now. And it's easy to get a good looking brand. So now your story, do I know your story and do I like it? That's it. All the equity. And you can sell anything. Like Liquid Death started with water, then now they can sell this. And they'll probably sell food at some point if they want, right? Like you can, if you know the story, then so every person starting a brand today, and you've called this out, like I have a framework for how brands can tell real life stories to be a hero in a real life story that's fighting an injustice in a surprising, delightful way that gets you attention and earns you emotional, support and love, and to do that for things that actually matter. So yeah, it's a very exciting time, especially for creatives, for artists, because storytelling is really the emotional way of getting attention and creating that, connection. And that's what you need to be really good at. Because if you aren't good at that, you'll have no equity. Your company will not be worth anything.
Right. You mentioned that your job is to get people at Walmart to buy probiotics. Can you briefly tell the story of Poopowerment?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is just a really good example of how almost all categories that people create brands within, they think that they're messaging at a simple level. They think that they've taken something that's hard to explain and they've made it easily digestible. And I come in and I realize, like, I like to say that my skill is being a very smart, dumb person. Like I can come in and just like look at things and have a sense of like if it makes intuitive, common sense. And so a good example is this: the probiotics are booming. They're growing like crazy and they're starting to show up in all these products. And you look at how probiotics are marketed, it was always about gut health and how many billions of whatever is inside your product. And then words like regularity, being and it's like, I come at that, I'm like, if I'm a regular person you think you're extracting this complex probiotic, supplement in a simple way, but I still have what gut health? Like what is what are we talking about? Like,
Yeah.
who in the world knows what gut health is? And so I was like, probiotics help you poop. And if people knew that they helped you poop, because a lot of people struggle having pooping, probiotics help with that. They make you regular. That's what everybody's saying, but they're not saying it. And so one of the best things you can do is just like stop trying to sound good or like smart and just say what the fuck is happening, because that's what people understand. And so we made a commercial that basically it was a women's probiotic product. It was one of Garden of Life's #1 selling product at Walmart, and they needed to compete at Walmart. Everyone knew them at Whole Foods and they crushed, but Walmart, a lot of these better for you brands have won in the small grocery stores. Now they're going to Target, Costco, Walmart, and nobody has a clue who they are. And so the job was to tell women two things. A, we should be able to talk about poop. It's this myth that women don't poop and we don't talk. It's time to say, like, everybody poops. And so it was women talking about how, they're comfortable talking about pooping and how probiotics help you poop. And yeah, this took Garden of Life's #1 selling SKU and increased sales by 25% and boosted their whole probiotics category. Because finally people in Walmart were like, oh, I saw your commercial because it was so surprising and provocative. I remember it, and I'm going to try it. And I'd say, like, all you need to do is get people to try your product. Like,
Right.
a great product will continue to sell itself. And so it just showed that, like, all this science, all this, and again, Garden of Life had the best quality probiotics. But I knew telling people that you're going to lose them. You're in the intellect now. Just go in, have the best quality product, and have the confidence to be entertaining and funny and surprising and also clear, and you will crush. And so that is really a lot of the math of what Humanot does. Is it takes these slightly more complicated things and it just makes them fun and simple. And I think just have fun. Brands are trying so hard to be serious, cool, and it's like, and it just, in today's world, it's invisible. People don't have time for it. And I encourage entrepreneurs to just be ridiculous, have a good time. And also, you can't fail today, because if you fail, no one sees it. So keep trying shit. Like, it's like, and if people are complaining, that's good. It's like, don't be so ridiculous that you're clearly offensive. Like, you don't have to worry about that. But
there should be a certain amount of the audience that's a little offended by it, because that creates tension, right? And the girls don't poop thing is a great insight. Like, if that's the kernel of, because now, even if I don't know about Garden of Life or care about probiotics, if I'm a woman, like, there is a cultural norm that is lame, that, like, girls don't poop, right? But you're now championing this message that should be famous out there, and the product's just right behind it, right? So I might, if I'm a woman, like, I might share this commercial just because it's the idea that actually girls poop, and the whole commercial, it's a bunch of women basically on the shitter bragging about how much they love to poop. And it's barely about the product at all, but it's very, very funny.
Well, and this gets to this idea that, like, your product is really the least interesting thing about you and your story. Like, the instinct is to try to tell this. So I call these, like, there's category injustices and then there's cultural injustices. The category injustice is what most people market. It's like, man, isn't it really annoying that, and isn't this confusing, or aren't you tired of wasting your time? We got a great solution. That's most marketing, and it's boring. To go into the cultural level and to connect your category injustice to a cultural injustice, that's now when you're talking about stuff that everyday people can relate to and that's actually interesting and provocative. A good example of this is, we took dog food, a better for you dog food that wasn't so kind of processed full of crap, and we realized that a lot of dog moms think about their dog as their child, but they get made fun of it for that, right? So they're feeling all this, like, kind of shame for loving their dog so much culturally. So we made a commercial that was like the world's best food for the world's best kids, and we basically made commercials about how dogs were better than kids.
Mhm.
And it was tongue in cheek, and it was you know, but it made people so both mad, and then the people who finally were yes, thank you for someone saying publicly on behalf of all of us what we feel and making the case in a fun and way. We got so much buzz. We got canceled by Matt Walsh. But it created a story that's emotional, and it's tied directly to, like, if you love your dog so much, make sure you buy them great food. But now let's talk about how people are shamed and judged for this, and and maybe it's okay. Maybe it's okay to just want to
Yeah.
have a dog, and maybe you don't want kids. It's like let's make that normal.
Okay, let's talk about Mouthfire. This is it's a new project of yours. What was the insight that gave you the idea for this brand, and how are you hoping to set up this model differently? Particularly, I want to ask you about the art aspect of this and the
Yeah.
value creation. I just think it's very, yeah. I had not heard anything like this before.
Mhm. So I want to one thing I want to reframe for all entrepreneurs is you do not need to be smart and strategic to be a great entrepreneur. You need to follow your instinct and to see where it leads and stay open. And I would say that Mouthfire has truly been this emergent brand that continues to evolve even to this day as I'm thinking on what it can be. And you know, the so even the way it came about was surprising, unexpected, synchronistic. I've been waiting for a brand because I know I'm really good at it. I've been waiting for a brand to emerge that I could, put my full creative power behind. But it's like, what am I? I'd be like, am I going to sell soap or candles or toothpaste or because you can make a crazy cool soap company or crazy cool candle company. I see entrepreneurs do this, but I was just like, like, why? I hadn't found something that I cared about yet. And so I haven't been drinking alcohol for about 5 years just because like it really started to not feel good in my body. And I think, entrepreneurs are, I think, like kind of like athletes in the sense that like they work hard and they got to be on. And I just found that like I couldn't afford even to operate at 90%, if I had 2 beers and I just like subtly, not even hangover, just like off, I can't go on a client call and be a little off. I can't go and,
Yeah.
work with a
You lose your
team or be on
timing. Like, even if you can say the same thing, you lose the rhythm of just being fast enough to have the quick response, and
Yeah.
you need it.
So alcohol eventually just left my, I just stopped drinking it. And so that meant I was on this sort of NA path of drinking, seltzers or NA beers, and this category has been blowing up, um, and then yeah, I had a friend who had a hot sauce company, and then actually, someone at Human, you actually know Steven, it's like he was talking about a spicy alcoholic seltzer, but it wasn't really spicy, and so we basically um, I talked to my friend. I was like, "Yo, I, I think it'd be cool. I love spicy food. I put hot sauce. That's one reason I liked alcohol. I loved whiskey and the strong taste of it, and tequila and the burn. And I was like, and then I loved putting hot sauce and everything. I was like, yo, it'd be interesting to try to create a spicy,
Yeah. Even like
a
Bragg's,
spicy,
I don't know, do you ever take like the shots of Bragg's, what was it?
right?
Apple
Yes,
cider vinegar in the
apple cider vinegar or a ginger shot. It's like I like that burn. I'm a guy that yes, I've done cold plunges. I do sauna. Like I like intense things, and so and of course, when you stop drinking, like sure your body feels better, but you do miss that kind of
Yeah.
fun
Or
that
feel
from
alive,
drinking.
bro. Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
basically we asked this kind of this hot sauce maker, really talented guy. He's had hot sauces on Hot Ones, that show and whatnot. And it was a Chattanooga based company. I said, let's try this. And there were other, we've all started to see jalapeno be an ingredient in things, but it's so mild. So it was just like, let's make a really spicy drink. And we've tried a bunch of different things with different flavors, but it's essentially fresh fruit, peppers, and effervescence, bubbles. And we tried some with, some without. We tried different things, but man, this drink, it was so good. It was like, it burned like drinking whiskey, and then it hits you with this adrenaline, like wake you up. But then the capsaicin which is what creates the pain, your body literally rushes in to deal with that pain with endorphins.
Yeah.
And endocannabinoids, which is like similar to, it's like natural producing, almost like what you're experiencing when you get high. It's literally like a pepper high that happens when you're eating super spicy food, but when you drink it, it works in this different way. And so people realize, like, I'm feeling buzzed. Like, what the hell? We feel like we've uncovered this amazing natural nature's natural buzz that happens to be from peppers, and it relieves stress, and it tastes amazing. And I was just like, how cool is it? I've invented my favorite drink.
Yeah.
Like, and then we start sharing with people, and they're like, this is amazing. Of course, a lot of people are like, it'd be great to put alcohol in it. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But the
Yeah.
point is, it's like, it suddenly unlocked so many things. It was like, okay, this solves this NA problem of NA beers kind of being boring, or NA drinks. The functionality in them is not really great. People are claiming functionality, but I don't usually feel it, or it's using nootropics or something.
Yeah.
And then and suddenly I realized that this drink mimicked alcohol in that it wakes up your senses with a burn. You get the endorphins, and then you also, as the stress relief comes in, and then the heightened adrenaline, like on Hot Ones, you start speaking more honestly.
Yep.
You start speaking more passionately. I was like, this is like what happens when you drink alcohol.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like nature's like alcohol replacement.
You also, people are dying to feel a small shift in social situations too, so that they can be more sexually open. Like to be
Yes.
real, right? Like we're sexual beings. We want to be more sexually open, but we feel super repressed and afraid to admit that, like, man, like, you're hot. And what alcohol does for people on dates, right, is it gives you even just a slight tilt that allows you to engage in this life force that is so central to being human. And like the history of like heat, like she's hot, he's hot, like the sexual fire in us, right? That really is, I had not thought about this before, but it is closely associated with heat, right? And like cool things, cold, like thing you don't feel after a cold plunge is like sexual, right? Like it's cool. When you get cold, right? So even like tropical cultures, right? They tend to be more sexual, more sexually open. And I mean, I do think there's a really interesting unlock around just how much people are dying for a slight mental shift to open them up and reduce inhibitions so that they can act the way that they really want to act.
Yes, I think we used to talk about this as like social lubricant. Like I kind of am coming out of my, mind a bit and getting a little bit more into my body, my emotions. And yes, I think that's one of my issues is like, the younger generation is drinking less, which of course, physically speaking is good, but that also means we're going to bars less and having less social interactions. And like part of that social interaction is the magic of the two souls, two spirits, like, two consciousnesses, you know, meeting and creating what we call collective effervescence. Like, and then yes, you become alive, you become passionate. Of course, if you drink too much, then you get into, you're now bogged down and your brain stops working. But everybody's always chasing that magic little place where I let my guard down. I'm less full of shit. I'm less polite. And so Mouthfire, part of it too is I hate bullshit. I hate bullshit from a marketing standpoint, and then I hate it when I hang out with people. Like and when I'm talking, I'm always trying to just cut through and have a real conversation. And so Mouthfire is meant to do that, to get people starting to have real conversations that are also not all this political argument, but to speak more passionately from how you actually feel. And I just think we've lost passion in general. Yes, sexual passion, creative passion, artistic passion. And then I look at like who has it right now, and I think artists have it. Artists are this amazing group of humans who have rejected all societal norms, all, um, belief that I have to get rich, and they just trust themselves, and they just trust what's their intuition, and they create a product that they have no clue if anybody will consume or buy or want, and they're obsessed by it. And within that is truth and beauty and purpose and things that are meaningful. And so Mouthfire is basically going to use all of its marketing to put artists in front of people. And what makes art valuable is if you know about it. So the goal with Mouthfire is to help cut through all the bullshit and make artists rich. I basically believe we're making the wrong people rich. And it's our fault. We're giving these people the money. Everyone's complaining about the billionaires. We give them our money. Like what? Shut up. Start giving people who you respect, who you know, who you value your money. And so give your money to Mouthfire. Mouthfire is going to point our attention to artists who spit fire, who speak truth, who speak passionately, and then go buy their work. Go buy a ticket to their show. Because the problem with artists is they're horrible marketers. They create, but they don't want to be like, look at me, look at how amazing my painting is. Look how amazing my music is. Like, so I don't mind being the marketer that's like, I'll shine a spotlight on you. I'll put you in front of millions of people. And guess what? If millions of people see your painting or your murals, the value of that painting goes up. Why do you buy art? Because you know about it and you think it's cool. It's the same reason the brands are valuable. So if I take a brand and I say, we're going to, at the heart of this, raise the awareness and attention to artists that truly deserve it, emerging artists, the ones that are speaking truth passionately, because a lot of artists have already sold out. The ones that we all consume, like, do they actually have anything interesting to say? Not really. Like, I can make a lot of, Swifties mad by pointing out that like Taylor Swift's new album is just about her life and what she's doing, how is anybody actually, using that and creating something that's rich, meaningful, and beautiful. So the goal with Mouthfire is to create a new emerging class of artists that are rich, not billionaires, but like, we actually value the things that we say we do, and we do that by giving them money and attention, and then a lot of that is going to be about helping sell tickets to shows. 25 to 40% of alcohol sales are down at venues, and that's a huge problem, which means we're going to see a lot of venues close. So we need to get back into in-person gatherings. We need something to drink. Mouthfire will be that non-alcoholic alternative that you can drink, and then we'll be promoting artists and live and comics, anything that gathers people together. I believe that what the world needs right now is to be in a physical place together with other humans in a shared vibration, tapping into something emotional that then ignites some sort of passion to do something about it, because we basically are all just complaining about the problems, and we're not doing anything about it. We're not creating anything. So my goal would be to help turn people, light their passion up, and then take that passion into creation, whether it's art or a company.
Mouthfire. That is, when is there a launch party for this? Do you have a date for when people can
So
check this out?
by the time people watch this, they should be able to go to mouthfire.com. So I'm launching the product like art, in that I'm going to have a series of limited edition pre-order releases that you can get in on. I as someone who's spent 20 years in brands with strategic launches and planning and I'm not doing any of that.
It's all
I'm
just
literally
just strategic planning is just another word for guessing.
I'm just gonna literally every day show up and see what happens that day and prove to people that you can literally just follow your instinct and follow what happens, and that can be how you run a company. And I think there's just a myth that there's a huge entrepreneurship myth, which I actually looked up. It's if you understand the origin of the word entrepreneurship, it's a French word that's entreprendre. Entre means between, and prendre is to grasp, to take, or to seize, which is basically this is the entrepreneur is the one who steps between worlds and seizes something new. It's a creative act. It's a mystical act. It's like um, that's the entrepreneur is technically an artist, but we've transformed that into this sort of profiteur, someone who's just trying to extract value or do arbitrage. So entrepreneurs have been tricked into becoming thinking that their job is to make money. That's not the job of the entrepreneur. It's actually to create value, to imagine and dream, and to create something beautiful. And that's what entrepreneurs used to be. And they've all just gotten lost. And so I want to bring back that mystical aspect to entrepreneurship. I think Steve Jobs was probably the last one that really had it. His company was art. His products were art. He was not listening to spreadsheets or sales data. He was creating from a vision of a different kind of world and created that world. So yeah, I'm gonna take people on a journey where you can just follow along to see what happens that day, and then everybody gets to be a part of it. So when you support Malfire, you're in early on this journey of a company that is literally going to be it's performance art disguised as a business. It's going to literally just be a story that you happen to be able to buy.
David Littlejohn, this was so much fun, man. I very much appreciate your vibrations out in the world, and this is everything I hoped. Is there anything else that you wanted to get to that we did not yet?
No, I mean, I think I guess I just think for someone out there right now who is like, I want to do something, because guess what? It just seems like everybody feels stuck in a situation that sucks. They're hating their jobs, or even they're just frustrated by their side hustle or whatnot. It just seems like people are bored and getting angry and feeling helpless. And I think there's so much fear in creating something. And again, entrepreneurship, it went from stepping between worlds and seizing something into this idea of like taking risks and being smart and having resources and money. And there's a lot of reasons to say, I have this dream or this idea, but it's easier to create something now than ever. And I would just say, lately, what I've been doing is treat companies like experiments. So you're not trying to be successful. You're not trying to make a lot of money. You're trying to try some new shit and see what happens. And it's going to be an adventure. And it doesn't matter. The best thing you're going to get is personal growth and a more interesting life. And what happens is entrepreneurs take on this weight of I have to succeed. Well, now it's scary. Now there's risk. Now and I just say, start small, start simple, and follow your fun and see what happens. And I just think I'm going to be teaching this to people, and I'm happy for people to reach out, but start having fun. Stop fucking grinding. Stop all this churning and just burning midnight oil. I'm going to put an end to this because it's a lie. you can get rich this way, but you will not create value. You will not have a rewarding life. And if I can do anything with Malfire, it'll be proving that you can just have a lot of fun being yourself and creating so much value from that, and have an amazing life. And I think, you've done a good job of creating a product too, of just following what's interesting to you. Go get this book, you guys, if you haven't got it. But it's like, this was fun.
Yes.
And again, when you're having fun, you actually work harder than when you're working.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, so I just,
Right. Go. You're on a roll.
you say it.
I'm just saying it reminds me a lot of how we started, which is just showing up to the schoolyard with your friends and you're telling jokes. And it takes a lot of courage and reminding ourselves that it doesn't need to be more complicated than just showing up and trying out a joke with your friends. And you can use that exact frequency of energy all the way out to Steve Jobs' world. But you just can't lose that little kernel of loose fun with your friends.
Stop taking yourself so seriously. Do something that sounds fun and stupid. Try it, and then see what you feel like doing after you tried that. And then try something else and keep doing stuff, and you will be surprised. The journey will magically become something you didn't even expect. I'll just say the last thing is that I always think I know where my story is headed. And I'm a really creative guy, and I can be like, well, it's either going to go here, here, or here. And all of those are pretty interesting. And the universe, to get a little mystical here, it always gives me the fourth door that I could never have expected. That's so much better. And so, you got to change your mindset of like locking in on this thing you're going to do, and it's going to be hard and you're going to have to work on it. No, just start trying shit and you'll be surprised. So I want to create a new class of entrepreneurs where you create your company as a piece of art, a performance art piece. And even if it crashes and burns, what a fun story. What a cool thing you got to do, because you didn't take it so seriously. And now you got one of the best stories. But I'll tell you, it probably won't crash and burn if you approach this way. It'll turn into something that's fun and rewarding you, because passion is contagious. And we're not a passionate people anymore. So I'm hoping people are going to drink some Mouthfire, have some passion discussions. A funny joke or idea will emerge in that conversation, and we'll say, we should do that. They'll jump on with the tools that are easy. They'll create it. They'll make some videos about it. And then we'll have art and artists and entrepreneurs who now are rich because they're doing something that matters, that's actually enriching people's lives. So enough with the bullshit of making money. It's ruining the world, and you can actually make money as a byproduct of having fun.
And where can people reach out to you? Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram, Littlejohn Aut, A-U-T at the end of Littlejohn. And then there'll probably be a contact form at malfire.com. So if you want to reach me there, that'd be cool.
David Littlejohn, this was such a blast, man. Appreciate the vibes bringing out of the world.
You happen to be a very good interviewer. And I'm excited for you, man. Go check this out. But you're very good at what you do. I've always enjoyed working with you. So let's keep it going.
I plan on it. I'm like a crab. I scurry under rocks, but I will never go away. Every once in a while, you see me jump out of the pond. Ha! Littlejohn, I'm in Chattanooga now. What's up, bitch?
Dude, come on. Let's hang out, man.
Yes. And Chattanooga, man, what a spot. That is
Get ready.
a good place. All right, David Littlejohn, thank you so much. Bye.
You do.